Data collection. Are you all paper-based or have you gone digital? Hey, special educators, this is Jennifer from Positively Learning. I'm so glad that you found me here. So let's get into it. Let's talk about special education data collection. I'd love to hear which format is working for you. In this quick video, I'm going to be sharing details from this blog post. I'll be sure to link it so you can go back and read all the nitty gritty. But what I really want to do is just share the pros and cons to each format so that by the end, you can make an informed decision for yourself. I'll also be sharing what I did. All right, so digital, let's start there. So when I'm thinking of digital data collection, I'm thinking Google Forms. Definitely. I've created a bunch and I've had many of them shared with me. But digital can also refer to spreadsheets, Google Sheets, or Excel. Maybe you're using a platform. So you could be logging into Tableau. You could be using ESGI, which is performance tasks. I've even used Boom Learning Cards as a form of data collection. So lots of different options out there. Well, a huge pro is, of course, the efficiency. Efficiency in taking the data, focusing in on the data that you want to take without lots of extras involved, which tends to happen with paper-based, but it's also really easy to access from anywhere. So whether you're sitting in a meeting at the IEP table, at PLC, or you're in your own classroom, you can access that data. So another wonderful pro is the data analysis. And this is not a strong point for me. I was not the strongest data analysis. I was able to look at paper-based forms and I could have made my own graphs and plots, but it wasn't quite as easy. And especially compared to using Google Forms, they do that all for you. And that makes the data really easy to communicate when you can see that visual representation. So, hands down, digital is the way to go for that. Now, there are some things to consider, and I just don't hear these things talked about enough. One is the reliability of your Wi Fi. Yeah, it is 2022 as I'm filming this video, but that's still a thing. And it was definitely a thing at my school. And there's just nothing more frustrating than being ready with a student and a student's ready, and you're taking this data and you cannot access whatever form you're trying to use. With paper, you just don't have to worry about that. But another con to using digital that I also don't hear people talking about enough is the idea that it can be really distracting. Digital can be distracting in general. Many students I worked with had some type of technology as a reinforcer. And yes, sometimes that worked when we were doing data collection or performance tasks, but a lot of times it did not. Think about it. If I'm asking a student to do a paper and pencil task, a performance task that's hands on, and I'm using technology to collect this data, that can be really distracting. So, all things to think about. So, now let's flip over to the paper based. Now, when I think paper based, I am thinking definitely data binders, checklists. Students are doing work samples, a unit assessment that I can collect data from, or a performance task, and I'm using observation. So there are many times that I gravitated towards paper forms because of that comfort level. I had some data sheets where I could track multiple pieces of data on one page, and that was a comfort level for me. I felt like it was a huge time saver because I didn't have to flip through to find another screen wherever I was going to record that data. But of course, that can backfire on us as well. I know when I did paper forms of data collection, I tend to take way too much data and I don't end up using it all. So it was not efficient, but I still liked the idea of being able to collect multiple forms of data. But is that the best idea? I'll leave that up to you. All right, now, of course, some cons are you might be flipping through those data pages just like we'd be flipping through screens. I usually ended up just using a piece of scrap paper, and there were so many times I would go back to that scrap paper when I was ready to analyze, and I wasn't exactly sure what data I had taken. When I went digital, that tended to go away because there was only one type right in front of me. I hope that makes sense. So, paper forms of data collection can bring that comfort level. You can collect large volumes of data, but it might not be as clear cut or efficient, a little bit tougher to analyze, but of course it can be done. That's up to you. And then the one other con that I hate to admit, I've lost data pages before. You know how many pieces of paper we deal with on a daily basis. So that can be something to consider as well. As you can see, there are pros and cons to both paper based and digital. So now it's time to make a decision. Which one is for you? So let's take a look at this chart with these pros and cons. And now I'm going to reveal what worked for me. Did I go team digital or team paper? Probably no surprise, but my answer is a little of both. I tend to collect data using paper based. That's just what worked for me. It was right, piece of paper was right where I needed it when I was working with younger students. And then I would track and enter the data digitally, whether it was a platform I created or whether it was something collaborative that I shared with the team at the school level or at the district level. So my answer was a little bit of both, and yours probably will too. You could have the best digital system, but it will not work for every student you're working with for all of the reasons we mentioned in this video. And that's important to know, just like we differentiate our instruction based on our students' needs, we may need to differentiate our data collection to meet all of our students' needs. Well, I hope this was helpful to you. I do have several digital examples and some student data tracking and tracking forms for teachers to edit and make their own. And I will be sure to add that link also to the description. But for now, what I'm most interested in is what team you're on. So please leave a comment below and let me know. Are you on Team Digital or Team Paper for your data collection? Take care.